Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Okay, welcome to another episode of the Welsh Yogi Podcast. First one in a long time. First one since our Rathiatra Festival. First one since Dave Ramita Swami visited. First one since you've been to Hungary in that time.
Yeah. What have you done?
I've been attacked by my neighbour's dog
Yeah.
this morning.
What happened?
His name's Oscar, and he seems like a nice dog, but sometimes as we're going inside the house, it just flips, and it just starts attacking me, my wife, anyone going in and out of the house. And then today, it seemed all nice, and I've been like, okay, Oscar, and the next door neighbour was like, okay, give it a treat to try and so I can sort of try and win it over psychologically.
She was there.
Yeah, and it's happened before, and I just know I can never win. I can never win this dog over. I've given it treats before, and it's just snapped, and it's bitten my leg and ripped my trousers and stuff, So the same thing happened again today. It just snapped and just started chasing me, and I was running back from it, and then as it would lunge to bite me, I would aim it, so I would time it, so I would kick the dog in the face as it was trying to bite me.
You used to be a taekwondo master, no?
That's where it came in, but if it wasn't for my own martial arts expertise,
Yeah, you'd have had
any other normal human being would be, ripped apart by now. And it is serious because my wife can't do that. You know what I mean? Or if you've got sandals on, you're not going to kick the dog in its face and stuff.
So what do you do about it?
I said to the next one, just keep the dog on the lead when we're around. I said, my wife is scared to go in and out of our house because of the dog. Neighbour's like, oh yeah, just every time it wants to, if it keeps attacking you, just kick it in the face, it'll learn then. It's like, no, I don't want to have a fight with it. I don't want to fight your dog every time I want to try and get it in and out of the house.
What does the bag of Gita say about this?
Bag of Gita says,
Shut up, bag of Gita.
I don't know.
It's something.
Yeah, how can I play the Bag of Gita in
That's
this
what I was thinking.
circumstance?
How would a yogi react?
Well,
What would Prabhupada do?
it's the Bag of Gita. It's all the way over there on that bookshelf. But if there's an aggressor, then you should have to defend yourself.
Mm.
Yeah.
You reckon the dog thinks that your house is?
It's not the dog's
house?
fault. Dogs.
It's territorial, like.
Yeah, it thinks I'm an intruder or something. It's probably had a messed up past.
Mm.
But that's why dogs aren't actually meant to be kept in the house. In Vedic society, if you had a pet dog, it would be outside. It wouldn't be inside, sleeping on the same bed as you, and leaving all its hair and peeing in the house. And you keep animals outside, and human beings are inside. That's what you do. So, dogs are just that's why they're. Anyway, I will kill it one day.
Careful now. You said it. It's gone out.
Dog eaters. There's a type of caste, isn't there, in Vedic society called dog eaters. They would eat dogs. So, anyway, welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast. Hi, Krishna.
Yeah.
Going back to it.
So what's happening?
How have you been?
I'm here. I'm still here. Still in the ring.
That's good.
Yeah. That's all you got to do.
I mean, that'd be a sad day, wouldn't it? One day it's Welsh Yogi Podcast, and where's Back Rupert? He's
died.
gone. Like, it happened one day. One day, what? Yeah.
You reckon you're going to outlive me?
Are we going to do the podcast until we die? It'd be good if we did. Like,
cool.
Depends
if I get killed, because I'm like a dog attacking people all the time.
Yeah.
Need to sort it out.
Yeah, what was that? I mean, that's the thing. I must have done something to that dog in my previous life.
Yeah, it works like that. That's what I'm learning now. Things you do come back to you.
Yeah.
Like, it just in my personal life, it's like the things I do come back to me just this past couple of weeks a lot quicker. Like, sometimes you just do something, I don't know what an example of, like take a piece of cake that's just on the counter without asking or something. It's just made up. And then you eat it, and you don't get caught, and you get away with it. But then it will come back to you some way, some other. But these days, I've been taking that piece of cake, and it's straight away. So I was like, why have you taken my cake? And then I'm forced to deal with myself. You ever had periods of time like that?
Yeah, it's in one sense, it's good if you can't get away with anything.
Yeah, it's good.
So then you're forced to improve.
Yeah.
Because so most of the time we cheat ourselves out of self-improvement, which is why it's good to have others around us who can always like correct us, uplift us. And I was listening, our spiritual teacher Sri Ramaswamy did a podcast. Actually, this is another traumatic experience I had recently. I'm going to let you all know. This is my traumas with animals.
Okay.
A bird flew into my room. Did I tell you this?
No, I never heard about this.
Really? This is just a few days ago. A bird, like a magpie.
One magpie.
One magpie.
One for sorrow.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I go up. I'm walking up my stairs, and I hear this like frantic, like banging, and this noise, shrieking noise. I open the door, and there's a magpie inside my room, which is fairly small, just banging against this closed window, banging, really freaking out. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I just don't know what to do. And I call my wife. She's working in Cafe Atman at the time. And I say, Gopagita, you got to come home right now. I can't deal with this. I'm freaking out.
Wait, what? It's meant to be the other way around.
I know it is. I said, I'm freaking out. She's like, look, I'm busy. I'm in Atman. I got stuff to do. I said, I just can't. There's a bird. It's in our room. I don't know how it got in there. It's freaking out. And she just says, well, just open a window. So I grab a big blanket and just cover myself with it. Because there's nothing worse. I hate birds. It's from that Alfred Hitchcock film, The Birds, and an idea of a bird fly like moths. I hate moths.
About like the sharpness of a bird.
Just no,
Sharp beak, sharp
it's something
toes.
about something unpredictably flying around.
Yeah.
That can just. That's why I freak out if I'm in a room with a moth or something, because it can just. But this bird was like that times a million. So I get this blanket and open the window. And then I run back and peek outside the door and say, okay, bird, just, get out of that effing window, And then the bird goes up, and there's two windows. I open the one on the right, and it just goes for the one on the left. You can see all these marks. And it's just freaking out, and then it stops, and it's on the floor, and it's like I thought it'd been like hurt or damaged, and it's making this weird noise, and you can tell that it's completely freaked out, And it's going, like this weird noise, and I'm like, anyway, in the end, my wife had to leave Atma. She compassionately put it in a box and put it outside. But I was thinking, my spiritual teacher was saying, if you have, so that was an extreme example, but if you have say if you have a bumblebee or a fly or a wasp and you're trying to let it out of the room, like the psychology is that, it'll be going towards the window because it'll think like, oh, that's where the outside is, and constantly be knocking itself on the glass. So you have to try and open the window in such a way, and no matter how you open, like if you open the window up, it'll just go up with the glass. If you have a skylight window, it won't understand that it has to go down. It'll always the psychology will be it'll always just keep going towards what it thinks is the outside, but it's not. So similarly, like we think we can get happiness in this world. So we're freaking out and we're smashing our heads against what we think is the outside, what we think is, okay, this is where I can get my happiness from. And there's other teachers around us and people trying to help us, and we think, and we're, sometimes they really freak us out even more, and we think that, oh, they must, we don't understand what they're doing. They're trying to say, look, you have to go this way. I know it doesn't look like that's the way, but the psychology that you are. But look, you just have to go around the corner a little bit, or you just have to go under this little window. But we're like these little creatures that are just, so, habituated that we can't. Someone's trying to help us, and we can't understand how, and yet we're still banging our head. So I had to clear all this bird poo from all the room. It went everywhere. I had to clean everything. It knocked everything off. There was marks on the window where it was like you could tell it was just frantically smacking its beak against the glass. And so, like in this material world, we're just leaving stool everywhere, creating loads of mess, smacking our beak against this glass, trying to get out. And all we have to do is wait until the compassionate spiritual teacher, in this case it was my wife Gopagita, comes and puts us in a box and chucks us outside. Okay, I'm finished.
It's a nice analogy, isn't it? They would want to do it our way, but our way, like the bee or the whatever, the bird, has like this learned behaviour, and it only knows how to act in one way.
And it's sincere. It's not like it's trying to do anything wrong. From its own point of view, it thinks, no, this is how I get outside. So simply we're not like, we're sincerely thinking, no, this is how I get happiness. There's nothing, in one sense, there's nothing too crooked about it all. It just becomes crooked because we think that I can get happiness by exploiting others in the extreme case, and then it gets a bit...
Yeah, you talk about bees. When I was just in Hungary, I was like serving Sri Swami in his garden, and like there's something about being in that environment where it's like very purifying, very
It's intense.
It's intense, but there's like purifying like means like, getting rid of your bad stuff, basically, in one sense, like getting rid of the stuff that's holding you back or whatever.
Getting clean, if you're close to the fire, that's where the most warmth is. That's also where the most likely is you're going to get burnt as well. So.
Yeah, but I was having this really bizarre phenomenon where every day I was getting stung on the foot by bees, like 3 or 4 times a day. And it was like really bad because there was all these flowers all over the floor and we're walking barefoot and these bees were stinging me. And I was like, oh my gosh, why does this keep happening? And then like at one moment I was like, this is just getting rid of my bad karma.
Yeah.
Like this pain that I'm feeling, because it makes your face tingle. It makes you, I don't know if you get stung by a bee before.
Yeah, because it's a poison that runs through your whole bloodstream.
Yeah, you just start pulsing. It's kind of nice in one sense. It's like, whoa, I got stung by a bee. But it hurts. And one time we were serving dinner, and I stood in the bee, and I was just like, wow. You can't do anything because you're serving. You've got to be very like a waiter, seen and not heard, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh my god. But no, it's interesting how sometimes to look at things like that, when we get bumps or when we get hurt, we can see it as like when bad things happen to us, we see it if we can see it as something good. Do you know what I mean? Instead of why is this happening to me? Why is it happening for me? We've heard that before. Like,
yeah, we can see it as this is helping me get closer to understanding Krishna. If it's if it's done, I'll get out the window.
If it just happens of its own accord without you looking for it, like if you've just been an idiot and you bump against something. Anyway.
I'm traumatized from animals.
Yeah.
I'm glad I never had a pet or anything when I was little.
You didn't have a pet?
Well, my brother did though. He had these 2 hamsters. I talked about this loads.
I don't think
gerbils.
So. I never heard it on the podcast.
These 2 little gerbils he had called. Have to remember their name in order to honour them. Jack and anyway, it was quite sad because one of them died. They're just stuck in this little plastic box for their entire lives. 2 friends, one of them died, the other one was blind, and it was just like, I guess one day woke up and saw his friend's corpse there, didn't understand what's going on, and just running around in this little plastic box where it was like, in some stool and everything, and I just thought, this is so cruel,
And it's a little kid looking after these hamsters, right?
Yeah, what kind of karma do you have to get to be? Yeah, I started in the Vedic, like generally animal life, the body of an animal, like you don't get karma as an animal. Like that dog for biting me, for example, doesn't get any bad karma because it's just an animal. So you just follow your senses. So you don't accrue good or bad karma because you just follow you're a slave to your mind and senses. That's why in human form of life, because you can utilize this ability of discrimination, you can choose whether to bite someone or not, for example. So that's why in human life you get good and bad karma. It can be used to either elevate yourself in future lives or degrade yourself. But generally, if the soul is in a body of a plant or an animal, you're just burning off bad karma that you've accrued from previous lives. Yeah, so you're just like burning off your debt. It's interesting. So yeah, I don't know why. That
no, it's cool. This is the animal episode. Shout out to Freckles, my fish that died when I was 3.
That's another thing. Fish, fish that get stuck
remember
in
when we were on
this.
that retreat? Did you see those fish?
Yeah,
There's a fish tank when we were on the back to retreat or whatever. There's a fish tank and it's just black. It was like the darkest.
No one bothered to clean it or anything, and he's just got these
these little. You couldn't even tell there was fish in there.
Yeah.
Like when I look, there's fish in there. It's like a black cube, glass cube. But it's actually a fish tank.
Yeah, these fish. Like Krishna explains, this living entity is everywhere. And for each living entity, there's a reason why that, there's a soul in every living entity, and there's a reason why that's, has a certain term of existence it's got to live out, But you should be compassionate to all living beings.
Yeah, my dog Harry. I think that was a purifying name for a dog. Harry. It's like Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
But my mum gave him away after 1 year because he was biting everything.
That's the thing, dogs, they're animals, and we're trying to recently, quite sad news, this great devotee, Nimai Pandit Prabhu, passed away. He told me that his father was called Hari. Shivaram Swami said one of the reasons you're a devotee is because you were saying your father's name so much when you were little, because Hari is a name for God, so you get purified. But Nimai Pandit was such a amazing devotee. He was like a brilliant, had a brilliant brain, like a super scientist. He told me once, he said, because I asked him, out of all the devotional activities that you have in Bhakti Yoga, what are your favorite? He said, there's two things that I just absolutely love. He said he really enjoyed all the elements of practicing Krishna consciousness and Bhakti Yoga. But he said two things he loved. Now, he liked deity worship a lot, but he said the two things he really loved. He said one was cooking. He said he loves cooking, and he was a magician in the kitchen. He said, I loved cooking, and he said the other thing he absolutely loved, was book distribution. Was going out and distributing books. In fact, 1 year, because he couldn't walk at all, he was very badly damaged. His whole body was, quite a. He was in a difficult situation, but he booked one of those little motor scooters and went around and distributed.
Wasn't
books.
that during COVID as well? He was doing that, something like that.
It was in the marathon. I don't know if it's COVID or what, but he was he was a wonderful, wonderful devotee. He was in India, in Mayapur. He left this world in one of the most spiritual places on the planet. So he's probably in the spiritual world listening to this podcast right now. So shout out to Nimai Pandit Prabhu. I'm sure he told me that he loved the podcast. I'm sure he said that one. So.
Never even heard about it. Yeah, interesting. He's very humble. That's all I don't really get to speak to him so much.
He knew everything. He knew everything. It was like, and he was very, they say generally, and this is with sort of Vedic psychology, so it might be quite, what's the word, old school these days, but they say it would be generally, psychologically they'd say, a lady approaches things as an art, so cooking as an art, for example, or any particular activity, they approach it as an art, while men generally should approach it as a science. That's what they say anyway, and I just using that as an example. It has how Nimai would just see everything as he would understand the science behind everything, and therefore he could make everything very, very brilliant.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think with anything, you have to get the balance right between that feminine and masculine energy, or in what you're describing, the science of a thing, and then the expression of a thing. That was one thing I was talking to Shivaram Swami a lot about, was making art and painting, and I tend to be on the feminine side of things in that regard, just express myself and just make it however I want to make it. But he told me you really have to get the science down, figure out how to actually do this thing properly. If you haven't got the science and you've just got the creativity, there's something,
Yeah, that's why I always appreciated Picasso more when I saw how brilliantly he could actually draw. And when I saw just Picasso's some of his weird stuff, I thought, this guy's obviously just a bit of a cop out, and he's obviously a bit of a scammer in the art world. He obviously can't paint, but then actually he knew the science behind it.
You got to know the rules before you break them, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's the mainstream kind of art these days tends to be more about Like it's just make it up. Like
I think they don't. I was disappointed when I studied art because I didn't learn. They didn't teach me the science. I wanted to know the science of how to be a painter, how to mix paint properly, how to properly how to get depth within a scene and things like that. But it was all about like at the time it was this. What was the name of the famous? There was Tracy Emin in A Dirty Room, which was seen as like absolutely brilliant. And there was also the someone who put a cow in half and put it into formaldehyde.
What's his name? That's heavy.
Damien Hirst.
Damien Hirst.
So, and there was just these people were seen as brilliant. So then my fine art sort of qualification just became like, basically it wasn't about art. It was about like making up a philosophy and just trying to make a point in some like strange way.
You did that in Swansea as well?
I did that.
Was that the same place I was?
Cloyne-Bryn. No, I went there afterwards. I went to Cloyne-Bryn and did a national diploma in fine art. And then I went to the Swansea University then, but at that time I was just heavy on drugs, and I remember just sitting in the class and just in the middle of the class I just was thinking, why am I doing this, and just got up and just walked out like.
Yeah, it was a bit silly, like what you learn. Like I told you about the sand, didn't it? Like I turned up in the class and there was like a pile of sand in the middle of the room, and I was just like, oh, okay, what are we going to learn today? And then the guy who was teaching, he showed a few pictures on the slideshow, and he goes, and today we're going to take this sand back to Swansea Beach where it belongs. So like the whole class, we put all the sand in a Tesco carry bag, walked down to Swansea Beach, and we released it, and it was like a completely different colour sand. Like it was, it's like white sand. It was for me. It was just like so preposterous. But I told the same story to Shiva Ramswamy. He didn't seem that like. He was just like. And then after in the conversation, he said, like he was being quite like heavy about.
Yeah.
He said maybe you should learn how materials work before you start using them. Like he could see the value in the lesson, kind of thing. Like to learn about materials, to learn about sand, and anyway, it was just like far out how he saw the good in it,
Yeah.
But then later he said when he was at school, when he was at college, he studied engineering, and he said anyone who studied art, they've got their head in the sand. That's why you have to take the sand out. That's what it is like that, like very practical. It's good to be practical in this world, to have the sciences down.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, because ultimately, if you know something as a science, then then that's how to make it very brilliant. Yeah, because with if you understand something as an art, then you get so far. But if you understand the science behind it also, then you can go.
Which is why, like with Krishna consciousness, it is a science, because ultimately it's about developing a relationship with Krishna, which is like an organic thing. It's not like a rigid, structured thing. But if you just try and have like an organic relationship with Krishna without understanding the science of how to do that, it's never going to connect, right? You meet a lot of people, I love Krishna, and it's like, what does that mean? Like it's
you got to understand the science. but Bhakti, that's the way Bhakti is so interesting, is because like astrologically, like normally if you got Brahaspati in your astrological chart, then it's good for self-realization and spiritual advancement. But actually with Bhakti and Krishna consciousness, if you have Venus, which is actually like the god of love, it's actually better, because Bhakti is all about love, like Guru Maharaj has got Venus exalted to the 100th degree or something mad like that, So it's it is interesting. You got both. There's so many examples of both. Like when Prabhupada, there's one Indian lady there who's just crying and just chanting Hare Krishna, and seemingly emotionally, like just like on the emotional level. But Prabhupada says she should get initiated tomorrow, or something like that. Shamasunda. So you got these, emotions are very deeply appreciated in Bhakti, but then sometimes it becomes sentiment.
Yeah, it's important to learn how to use your emotions in the right way. Like if you're using emotions and connected to Krishna, that's good. But sometimes it's like, I don't feel very good today. I'm not going to do anything. Or,
So Krishna, all emotions are appreciated, because Krishna, even if when Putana the witch tried to kill Krishna, she had horrible intentions, but because she just she wanted to kill him in a way that rendered some service. Krishna takes all the good and ignores the bad. But real love means you need to sacrifice. Like you've got this like. So I remember someone was talking recently. He was a good friend, but you're talking about spiritual. We need spiritual communities, sort of thing. And like, we shouldn't, like, institutions aren't very good. No one likes institutions or institutionalized things. They're bad. But like, more free flowing and like, communes, sort of thing. Which sounds nice, but what you have to be careful of is you can have a community, but if it's a community where everyone's just doing what they want to do and just happy, just like, I like doing this, you like doing that, so then we sort of gel. But what you'll get if you have more of a community that's actually based around something, say you have institutions based around, spreading Krishna consciousness, for example, community that's based around it needs that certain central dynamic, because then the members will sacrifice for each other. And if you sacrifice for others, then you actually develop love. So if you just have a community where you don't have that element, that common goal that you need to sacrifice for, then you actually don't develop deep communities, you don't develop loving relationships, and it all remains quite shallow. Am I making sense?
Yeah, it's just really speaking to that kind of difference between the science and the art. Like you need the structure to facilitate the softness, to facilitate the relationships, the community. Like
that's what they talk about. That it's the same masculine, feminine principle, and they use those words just broadly and just to help describe it. But you have, these days you don't like to put a nomenclature on such things, but. Yeah, you need the masculine means it provides the environment by which the feminine can express itself. It's like when we were putting up the tents at the Rath Yatra festival. The ladies, when they put up the tents, their tents looked very beautiful. The boys, when we put up the tent, it was just your basic, like, okay, the tent's up, and we got the TV, and the TV's plugged in. So it was like the masculine element was there. Had the structural element, but how it's expressed within that, then that's the feminine element. So the masculine element will be like, this has got the purpose is fulfilled. The purpose of a chair is that you sit on it. So I have this bit of wood here, and I've created a chair, but how the chair looks and how it feels when you sit in it, etc. And that's meant to be the feminine aspect. So that's why masculine and feminine and everything is meant to work together. The masculine provides the stage by which the feminine can express, and that's how Krishna consciousness is. That's how if you know the masculine principle, okay, I've got to give my love to Krishna, and then how am I going to do that? I have my life, and I have these different elements in my life. These are the masculine principle. How can I engage these in Krishna service? And how do I do that? And what's it look like? And what form will it take?
And that's yoga. That's bhakti yoga.
That's bhakti yoga,
connecting. Yeah. We hear about it a lot in the Bhagavad Gita. Like Arjuna asks, like, is it the beginning of the 5th chapter? He's like, you told me on the one hand it's good to like renounce everything and gain knowledge, but on the other hand to work is better, or something like that. And Krishna says, like, to actually work with knowledge is better than renouncing it, like to not work. Yeah. So like to be really spiritual is actually use our intelligence to link everything we do to Krishna, and then everything sort of flourishes in its own way. Then the more you get in the way, the less it
Yeah, use something with knowledge, not at all. My Prabhupada would use the example, like, okay, I've got a disease in my eye that's giving me pain. So when you say, the impersonalist will say, okay, well, remove the eye. So you got your eye removed, therefore no pain. Therefore this is, some people say spiritual life is, well, get rid of, no relationship, no form, nothing. Okay, that's spiritual, but actually, what better is it you get a doctor and you actually cure the eye, and the eye becomes healthy and actually is utilized and helps you see and helps you enjoy life more, sort of thing. So it's better to use something with knowledge sometimes better using something with ignorance. It's better to just don't use it at all. You know, you're causing some damage here. But better than not using it at all is use it with knowledge and use it properly. Like if someone's playing an instrument and it sounds horrible, look, it's just better just to stop. But if you can do it properly, then you can create a beautiful symphony and everyone will want to hear, and you should carry on playing as much as possible.
And the way to do it properly is you got to find a teacher. You can't just teach yourself. You can to one level, but if you really want to perfect that, actually play a symphony, play some beautiful music, if you want to perfect your life, you need teachers that will correct you. They're not scared to correct you.
Yeah. Like you said at the start, you were feeling, not getting away with anything in a minute.
It's mercy. It's like
then you're forced to improve.
Yeah.
Sometimes forced improvement. It's a bit more, can be a bit more difficult. But down the road, when you look back on it, you're always like, that was the best time of my life.
Yeah, and the reason the improvements are forced is because like they've been flagged before, like these different elements I need to work on. Just a bit of a rebel without a cause. It's just the way my nature has been forever. Just like I'll decide, I'll do whatever I want. Doesn't matter what you say, and I have no reason why I'm even rebellious. Like there's actually no cause for it. It's just so like this.
I'll do it my way.
Yeah. So like it's been there throughout, and people have been telling me you got to work on this, you got to work on this. But I feel like the past week it's got to a point where it's like work on it or go away. In one sense, not literally, but like work on it or like it's become more like you got to deal with this.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that for sure. Like try and work on it. It's not.
Yeah, you've all got stuff you got to work on.
Yeah. You gotta put it in. You gotta like, if you really want to work on it though, you gotta make it like a goal, like a sankalpa, and keep returning to it every day and keep reminding yourself that you're working on it, because the mind is just like this automatic bird that's trying to fly out the window. You know what I'm saying?
That was mad.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Just panicking, absolutely panicking, and I had no way to communicate with it. Similarly, it's the same thing. It's like Krishna is trying to help us. But our consciousnesses are so different, that like I can't communicate with that. How do I communicate with that bird? So Krishna's trying to communicate with us as best as he can. He's doing a pretty good job since he's the perfect person. So you got Bhagavad Gita there. You got there's so much material there which is telling us directly what to do. But still, we have the psychology where we just keep hitting the glass. But anyway, eventually.
Yeah, we gotta stop and take a second out. Like, if you ever wanna, if you're pulling back a bow and arrow, you gotta pull it back before it goes forward. You don't just like throw the arrow at the front. You have to pull it back, take aim and go. But it's same like that in life. Sometimes you gotta take a step back to take a step forward. You know the story about the woodcutter?
Oh, sure.
You don't know about it? Maybe you do.
I have a feeling I'm about to hear.
No, I'm not gonna tell you. I just want you to know about it. Anyway, what else we want to talk about?
I think that's a wrap.
Can I tell a woodchopper story? It's good.
Okay,
there's a woodcutter, yeah? He's just started his new job. He's got his axe, and he's just ploughing down the trees, Sounds more like a horse, but... So yeah, his first day, he chops down 20 trees. He's like, that was good. I worked hard, I feel good. Tomorrow I'm going to go harder, I'm going to press my boss. I'm going to do more trees tomorrow. So he comes back the next day, smack. Works really hard, and he's only done 18 trees. So he's like, he gets confused. He's like, what the heck? I just worked twice as hard. Next day, I'm going to really go for it. So the next day, he just really empties his tank, like completely tries to get down every tree in the forest. And by the end, he's counted his stumps. He's only done 12 trees, So he's like, what the heck? He gets really dejected. Puts his axe on his shoulder. He's just there with his head in his hand. And there's a passerby. Passerby's like, what's the matter, woodchopper? And he's like, listen, I chopped down the trees. First day I chopped down 20. Every day I've been trying to improve, but I've been doing less and less trees. And the passerby goes, maybe you should have stopped and sharpened your axe.
Whoa.
So like that, people. Maybe it's time to stop and sharpen your axe.
Sure.
Take a step back.
Okay.
And readdress the situation.
Food for thought. We've been the Welsh yogis. We'll see.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna.
God bless everyone.
Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Hare